and welcome to the video on tissues. So you were introduced to these before, but a tissue is a group of similar cells that perform a common function. And the four main types, again, are epithelial, connective, nervous, and muscular. So you start out as a single cell, and then that differentiates or becomes all these different types of things like skin or nerves or lung or thyroid or pancreas or muscle or bone or blood. And what a stem cell is, it's a specialized cell that can become any cell in your body. So a lot of things like nerve cells or like cardiac muscle, we can't really get them to regenerate. That's why a stroke or a heart attack is bad. Potentially with stem cells we could be able to regrow these tissues, and scientists are working on it right now. Maybe one day they'll be able to, maybe one day we'll be able to grow new organs for someone that needs it using stem cells. Alright, so next part is the functions of epithelial tissue. So it's covering, like your skin is epithelial tissue. It covers body surface, so there it's good for protection. It lines cavities and organs, so like the lining of your intestines or the lining of your mouth, lining of your reproductive tract. That's all epithelial tissue. Also glands. The ducts of glands are going to be epithelial tissue. And here's some examples. This is what's called squamous, simple squamous epithelial tissue. That picture on the right is from a blood vessel. So you can see it's very flat. It's good for diffusion, so oxygen and carbon dioxide can diffuse through there very rapidly. Here's another example on the right. That's a section from your lungs. So you can see the tissue lining your lungs is very thin, and also the tissue lining the blood vessels is very thin, so oxygen and carbon dioxide can diffuse through there very rapidly because it's so thin. Alright, next type is connective tissue, and connective tissue has the most types. It's the most abundant tissue in your body. Basically it connects things, so some examples are like ligaments and tendons. Adipose or fat is connective tissue, bone is connective tissue, all your cartilage is connective tissue. Reticular tissue, like you would find in your spleen or your liver or your lymph nodes, that's connective. Areolar tissue, which you find under your skin and around all your organs, is connective, and blood is a connective tissue. So basically it connects things, and we're going to look at a few examples. So bone, that top picture on the right is bone tissue under the microscope, so its functions are support, protection. It also allows for movement. Fat or adipose, that's the bottom picture you see there, that stores energy, also generates heat in infants and children. It's also good for cushioning and insulation. Tendons and ligaments, that top picture you see is from a tendon. So tendons connect muscle to bone. Ligaments connect bone to bone. They also might connect some organs, hold some certain organs in place. And then blood, you see on the bottom, it transports different gases, nutrients, hormones, and wastes. So blood transports. So one of the connective tissues is adipose, and most of us probably have more than we need. So some of the health risks associated with increased abdominal fat are high blood pressure, elevated blood glucose levels, abnormal cholesterol or triglyceride levels, as well as central obesity. And then all of those things lead to increase in the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And in your book it tells you the ratio, your waist to hip ratio. If it's greater than 0.9 for men or 0.85 for women, that indicates central obesity. Alright, next is the function of the nervous tissue. So here is a neuron. You can see there's lots of projections from it, and its main function is communication. We'll talk about it in more detail when we get to the nervous system. Then the muscle tissue, there are three types. So the top picture you see is skeletal muscle. It's good for movement, so that's the muscle that's attached to your bones. That's the only one that's voluntarily controlled. Next is cardiac muscle, which you find in the heart, and it pumps blood. And then that bottom one is smooth muscle. So cardiac and smooth are involuntary. Smooth muscle, you find it lining your intestines, so it moves things through your digestive tract. Also, you find it around your blood vessels, so it controls the diameter of your blood vessels, which helps you regulate your blood pressure. So that's the 4 basic tissue types. So what's the most widespread and varied tissue in the body? And the correct answer is connective. I don't know where the correct answer is, but connective is the correct answer. Next thing is tissue repair. 2 types are regeneration and fibrosis. So when you get a small cut, regeneration, the damaged tissue cells are replaced with the same type of cells, resulting in a functional new tissue, and we'll look at that in a minute. Epithelial tissue can regenerate pretty well. Nervous tissue, and not as much. Fibrosis is when the damaged tissue is replaced with scar tissue, which is composed mainly of collagen, and that leaves a scar. Okay, I don't know why that's out of order. So tissue repair, let's go ahead and watch this animation on tissue repair. This would be regeneration.
When damaged, tissue can repair itself through either regeneration or fibrosis. Regeneration replaces damaged cells with the same type of cells, resulting in functional new tissue. In fibrosis, damaged tissue is replaced with scar tissue, which is composed mainly of collagen. Scar tissue does not restore normal function. When a cut occurs in the skin, the severed blood vessels bleed into the wound. A blood clot soon forms. When the surface of the blood clot dries, it forms a scab. Beneath the scab, white blood cells begin to ingest bacteria and cellular debris. The healthy tissue surrounding the wound sends blood, nutrients, proteins, and other materials necessary for growing new tissue to the damaged area. The newly formed tissue is called granulation tissue. Fibroblasts in the granulation tissue secrete collagen, which forms scar tissue inside the wound. The surface area around the wound generates new epithelial cells. These cells migrate beneath the scab. Eventually, the scab loosens and falls off to reveal new, functional tissue. So when a cut occurs in the skin, the epithelium regenerates while the underlying tissue heals by fibrosis.
Okay, so first step in tissue repair is bleeding. Then you're going to get a blood clot, and then white blood cells are going to come into this area to start to ingest bacteria or damaged cells. Then you're going to produce what's called granulation tissue, which is kind of scar tissue. And then, so that's here. Then in the last step, the epithelium is going to regenerate. Epithelial tissue is good at regenerating, and you get brand new skin with no scars. Pretty amazing.